Hello everybody, it's Peter McLaughlin with Blue Sky Hypnosis, and welcome to Friday Live at 5. For those of you who are regulars, welcome back. I feel like you guys are becoming my internet friends, and it's so wonderful to see you here every week at 5 o'clock. I love seeing the familiar names. I almost feel like I can see your faces, even though I can't really do that, at least in this format. So welcome back. And welcome to you if you haven't been here before. I hope you find kind of a home here. I hope you find that you're able to interact with the other people on this broadcast who are really wonderful, awesome people. I hope you, as I say, will find a home and want to come back in the future. And for those of you who've been here a few times, I'm glad you're back too. So thanks for being here. Today we're talking about 5 reasons why you can't lose weight. It's actually 5 reasons plus 1 why you can't lose weight. I'm not saying that this is an exhaustive list. This is just the reasons that I have sort of compiled that I've noticed over the last 14 years in my practice. And for those of you who don't know, I am a hypnotist and I am a life coach. And I've been working with people one-on-one, as I say, for that amount of time. I came to all of this, just briefly, for those of you who don't know, after a twin diagnosis. It was on the same day, actually, in 2003. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease and I was diagnosed with leukemia, all on the same day. And it took me about 3 years of soul searching, of crying, of getting angry. I remember once pounding the steering wheel in my car. Why me, kind of? Probably like the 12 stages of grief. Of research, of reading books, of talking to other people, before it all kind of came together for me in a rush. About 3 important elements occurred, and the last one was, strangely enough, watching this movie called The Secret. And once I watched that, I thought, all right, I need to learn how to get control of my mind so I can get control of my body. And my practice is really dedicated to that proposition that we all have way more control over our lives than we think we do. And so today, this whole concept about weight loss and weight gain and people struggling with yo-yo diets and whatnot, my philosophy on this is really built around this idea that it's all happening in the mind. Everything that you're experiencing in life is in your mind, in particular issues related to weight loss. And that just looking strictly at calories in, calories out, in other words, diet, exercise, those are wonderful, those are perfect. But if you don't get control of this third element, I call it the third leg of the stool, and that is your mind, you're not going to be able to get control over issues of weight loss and weight control. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so as normal, as usual, I just want to make 2 quick pitches. But I should make an announcement first, for those of you who don't know me. I did say I'm a hypnotist and a life coach. I am not a doctor. I am not a dietitian. I am not a psychologist. So please take everything I say with a healthy grain of skepticism, a giant healthy grain of salt. And then the other thing is, if you have questions, please feel free to pose those questions in the comments box. Because what I will do from time to time is look over in the comments box and just jump into questions. I usually don't have time to read them before I jump into them, but that's the part of doing this Friday broadcast that I love the most. I love the interaction. I love it when it becomes kind of a two-way street and not just me talking. And then secondly, if you have ideas for future broadcasts, please feel free to share those with me, because I really am starting to rely on you guys a lot to come up with ideas of other things that you would like to see, or even if you'd like to see something that's already been done but maybe expanded or come at from a different direction. I think I got stuck in this idea in the past. Oh, well, I've already talked about that topic, I can't talk about it again. And yet, these individual topics, generally speaking, you could probably write multiple books on each one of these topics. In fact, I know you can. So just because we've done a topic once before doesn't mean we can't do it again. So if you have ideas on new topics or a topic we've already done that you'd like to see expanded upon or come at from a different angle, please feel free to subscribe. Subscribe, yes, subscribe to the channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis. Please feel free to submit or to suggest those ideas as well. So I want to jump in today, and we can take this guy down. I want to jump in today by talking about, let's call this reason number 1. I'm going to say that reason number one, at least from my perspective, is that people can actually begin to use food as a kind of drug. In other words, there's a certain amount of food that's required to sustain our lives. Anything above and beyond that obviously is being consumed for some other reason. Now, it could be pleasure. It could be this next thing I want to talk about, which is they're using the food as a drug. Now, when I think about why people use drugs, and those could be legal drugs, they could be illegal drugs, they could be alcohol, all sorts of different kinds of substances, I think would make up that word, at least in my mind, of drugs. And I'm talking about really kind of drug abuse, not people taking prescription drugs that their doctor told them to take and it's necessary for their health. That's up to them and their doctor. I'm talking about kind of abusing drugs. And I think people can abuse food in the same way they abuse drugs. Now I ask myself the question, why would someone abuse drugs, alcohol, and so forth? And my answer to that question when I pose it to myself is people are attempting to distract themselves from some type of pain that they're dealing with. Now this could be physical pain. Now I can't blame someone who is feeling physical pain and let's say the only way they know how to give themselves some relief from that pain is to either take drugs or to drink alcohol. I don't know how I could blame someone for that if they were feeling physical pain and this gave them some measure of relief. In the same kind of vein, I would say that a person who's suffering emotional pain, psychological pain, might want to do the same thing. In fact, please forgive me for those of you, because I know I said this before, but I think I said it like 20 weeks ago, that I had an incident where I was working at this job. It was a corporate job. I had to take the corporate job because I had bought a business. It was my second business. The first one was a real success, and I thought, hey, I know how to run a business. And then the second one, I kind of grabbed this business thinking that I could do it on the side, that I wouldn't have to be there all the time. There would kind of be like a laundromat that I could check in, just make sure the machines are all working, and then leave. And that would be this little cash cow. It was a shipping and packing store, and it turned into be just a total catastrophe. And it sucked like 10-hour days out of me, 6 days a week. And I could just barely keep this thing afloat with all of my efforts. And at some point, the revenue from the previous company I'd sold had dried up. Needed to get a job. So I went and got a corporate sales job. And I'm sitting in this cubicle day after day, making these calls, doing something, frankly, I didn't really want to be doing. And I was feeling bored, I was feeling trapped. And so what did I do? I found myself kind of midday, standing up from my desk, walking outside, walking across the street to a gas station and buying a Snickers bar and eating the Snickers bar. I didn't need the Snickers bar. At least I didn't need it physiologically, but I needed it. I felt like I needed it because I needed some relief from sitting in that cubicle and dialing for dollars, call after call after call after call after call, and feeling like, again, I didn't really want to be there. I didn't really want to be doing that. And this little respite, if you will, standing up from my desk, walking away, the 15 minutes that it took me to do this whole thing and eating the candy bar, I felt like gave me, through distraction, a bit of relief from this otherwise feeling of oppression that I had. And I didn't want to feel that way. Feeling bored, feeling trapped, and so on. And so when I work with my clients, I'm wanting to understand, working with clients on weight loss, for example, wanting to understand why is the excess weight there? What is driving their behavior that's leading to the excess weight? And that's what today is all about uncovering or discussing these different reasons. Because like a car mechanic, if you have smoke coming out of the hood of your car, it's not the smoke that's the problem. The smoke is an indication, or rather a symptom, of a deeper problem, something that's underneath the hood of the car, a hose that is cracked or that's come loose, and maybe some kind of fluid spraying onto something hot and it's creating that smoke. The smoke actually is not the problem. And I think with issues about excessive weight, it's not the excessive weight that's the problem. It's a symptom of a deeper problem. And again, just like a car mechanic, I think if you want to solve a problem, you have to get to the root of it. You have to understand what is creating the symptoms rather than simply palliating the palliating the symptoms. Excuse me. So when I think of conventional weight loss programs, which are calorie in, calorie out, right? Let's put you on this diet, maybe even this kind of food. Let's maybe get your body moving so you start burning calories. I look at that and I go, okay, that's great. I mean, those are two important legs of a three-legged stool. But why is the person overeating in the first place? Why are they drawn to eating crap food? Because if we don't get at that, how are we supposed to solve the actual problem? And I would say that's the same thing. I mean, we're not talking about this today, but for me, if someone comes in and they've got, you know, a drug or alcohol problem, first thing I want them to be doing is working with a certified drug and alcohol counselor, and then I would help them adjunctively. And the adjunctive work is to figure out, okay, well, why? What is it in your life that isn't quite lined up that's causing you to turn to this? And one of the first things that I'm looking for is this number one thing I'm talking about here, which is using, in the case of today's discussion, using food as a kind of drug to palliate some underlying pain. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and I'm gonna dive into some of these questions here and see if there's something that we can get into the meat of with. All right, let's see. Okay, so here's the first one I just landed on right here. Mojo said, I really want to be hypnotized, but I don't think it works on me. Okay, so I really think that this is an important comment that you're making, Mojo, and I'm glad that you made it, and I'm glad I'm being given an opportunity to talk about it. So when I work with people, I make it an absolute definite that with each person we talk about in a first session what hypnosis is and what it isn't. Because almost all of us, our only source of information about hypnosis, if you think about it, is entertainment. I mean, Mojo, I'm quite sure, I don't know how old you are or where you come from in the world or whatever, but I'm going to assume you've been through, say, a public school system somewhere. And I'm going to say you didn't have formal classes in what hypnosis is and what it isn't, the science of hypnosis. I mean, I have psychologists as clients, and what they tell me is they have no real grounding in hypnosis because it's considered this fringe thing that no one really pays attention to, except in the world of entertainment. And in the world of entertainment, hypnosis is presented largely as a state whereby the subject is in a catatonic, sleep-like state. They do whatever they're told and they don't remember anything, and they're under the full control of the hypnotist. In other words, kind of like a zombie walking around with their arms outstretched, right? Okay. In order to make something like hypnosis interesting for an audience so that they would want to pay money to watch, whether in person or on TV or what have you, it's important that you sort of dramatize it. Now, I'm not saying that when you see a stage show and people are doing these remarkable things, like they're speaking in Martian, or they're sitting up on stage and they've got goosebumps on their skin and they're shivering even though it's 92 degrees outside with high humidity. I'm not saying that that's fake, it's not. But the people that can exhibit those types of, let's call them extreme phenomena, are very, very, very small. A very tiny percentage of the overall population can do that. And if you want to be a stage hypnotist, 60% of your job is finding 1, 2, or maybe 3 people in your audience, which could be 300 people, it could be 1,000 people, it could be more, who can exhibit those kinds of extreme hypnotic phenomena. All right, if I say the word automobile to you, Mojo, you don't really know what I'm talking about. I mean, you have a category that you know I'm talking about, but you don't really know if I'm talking about a 2-door coupe, like a smart car or a Mini Cooper. I could be talking about an SUV. I could be talking about a sports car. I could be talking about an 18-wheeler truck They're all automobiles. In the same way, hypnosis has a range of experience. And in entertainment, it's an extreme end of that range. Very small fraction of the population, as I was saying before. But that doesn't mean that if you're not an 18-wheeler, you're not an automobile. Every human being actually goes into hypnosis all the time, including you. So while we're talking about driving, one of the examples that I give is if you're driving your car and you're thinking about something in your life, you pull into your driveway and you can't remember driving the last 10, 15, or 20 minutes or miles, you were in a hypnotic state. If you're playing a sport and 2 days later you look in the shower and you go, oh my God, where did I get that huge bruise on my leg, that big? How come you didn't feel all the pain when you took the blow when you were playing your sport 2 days earlier? It's because you were in hypnosis. Hypnosis is a very natural state to humans. All it means is a focused state of concentration. And when you're focused on this, whatever's going on in your life, or playing sports, or frankly, watching television, it's like you move into something the diameter of this pen. So normally you'd have an aperture of awareness that's pretty large. Now you move into this focused state, diameter of the pen. And when you're in that tiny focused state, anything that's happening outside of it, like driving, like a physical pain that you should feel when you get a blow while you're playing soccer, is not recognized by you because your consciousness has shifted to this other kind of highly focused place. That's what hypnosis is. And you don't really need, as I just gave you the example with sports and with what did I say? Sports, and what was the other one? Driving. There are no hypnotists there, but you're moving in and out of hypnosis. You just haven't been told that's what it is. So a huge piece of this is understanding what hypnosis is, because once you understand what it is and how you go into it normally, then when you want to do it, either self-hypnosis or you want to do, you know, one of my videos on YouTube, which is on YouTube, it's on Blue Sky, is the name of my channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis. Please subscribe if you haven't. Once you know what it is and you have that experience, you're like, oh, that's what he was saying. But if you think you're supposed to be in a catatonic sleep-like state and you don't have that experience, you're gonna be like, I can't be hypnotized. It doesn't work on me. So thank you very much for making that comment. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay. Legal Eagle 44. Hello, Legal Eagle. Welcome back. Good to see you here. For many years, I've chosen food as a reward for a long day, a stressful situation, disappointments, etc. Changing this behavior, and I am dropping the excess weight. I'm going to give you the applause here, because I think you're all virtually applauding for you. So yeah, I mean, let me pop that back up. So yes, I mean, food is ideally, it's supposed to be, it's principally used to sustain our lives. Do we celebrate with it? Yes. Can anything be taken to an extreme? Absolutely. And as I said before, we would just want to know, if we were working together, what was taking you to that extreme. And you did say, you know, on the positive side, you used it as a reward. And you could say maybe on the negative side, you were using it for stress and disappointment. So with stress and disappointment, my supposition would be it palliated those negative feelings. So you didn't have to sit in those negative feelings. Just like, you know, a painkiller can palliate the sensations of pain that are coming from an injury that you received. They're not going to heal the underlying wound, but they can give you some relief from it. So yeah, that makes total sense to me. Absolutely. And congratulations on your successes with weight loss. All right. Oh, this is interesting. JW Fat. So to follow up on that earlier point on hypnosis, JW says, Peter, on a personal note, I never believed in hypnosis until I met you. I'm so easily hypnotized now. It scares me. Good vibes. So JW, think of hypnosis as one of your powers. As I mentioned before, you don't need me and you don't need another hypnotist in order to enter hypnosis. In fact, there's something called autosuggestion. Autosuggestion became very popular in the 1920s. Autosuggestion just means self-hypnosis. So giving a suggestion or presenting an idea to your subconscious mind that you want to take root, like a seed goes on the ground on fertile soil and grows into a plant. a suggestion is presented to the subconscious mind. Hypnosis just means something called the critical factor or the critical faculty is moved out of the way to expose that fertile soil so that when you present the suggestion, when you present the seed to the fertile soil, it has a chance to germinate and to grow into something powerful. Now, I think this might have been in the movie The Secret. They had, they were talking about the concept of the genie. You know, Aladdin's lamp, Aladdin rubs the lamp, the genie comes out, and the genie says to Aladdin, you have 3 wishes. You can wish for anything that you want in the world. Well, the suggestion was made that the story of Aladdin's lamp is really a metaphor for how your subconscious mind works. The genie, in this metaphor, your subconscious mind, can grant you anything. But you have to know how to get the genie. You have to rub the lamp. So rubbing the lamp, metaphor, is entering a hypnotic state. Now you've moved the critical faculty off to the side and you've exposed that fertile soil. Genie's standing right there. What do you want? The genie doesn't care whether you desire, ask for something positive, or you desire, ask for something negative. It's going to deliver that to you if certain conditions are met. So this gets into things like the law of attraction, for example, which shares a lot of elements, I believe, with hypnosis. So I think that the 2 factors involved in manifesting something into reality is holding for a period of time, and it's always different how long that period of time might be, a clear vision, a clear feeling, a clear knowing, sensing, etc., of what it is that is quote unquote desired, and a powerful emotion that goes along with it. So let's think about this for a second. So let's call it a clear picture, even though it could be something that you hear with your inner ear, it could be something that you feel. So you've got this clear idea, vision idea, feeling of what you want, a powerful emotion. Where does that come up most of the time in our lives? Yeah, right, exactly. It mostly comes up in the negative sense. When a person with weight issues, this is the example I use all the time, get out of the shower, no clothes on, looks in the mirror, because there's always mirrors in the bathroom, sees the shape of the body, becomes disgusted with themselves because they've got a belly or they've got more flesh on them than they think that they should have. So what's happening is that they're searing an image of their body, not as they want it to look. They're searing that image in their mind along with a powerful emotion, a negative emotion. That's how you manifest things. That's how you create things. You, JW, have an amazing power along with the rest of us. This is the power of your creative unconscious mind that is accessible through hypnosis. That's one of the avenues through which you can access it. And yeah, like anything that's powerful, like a gun is really powerful, but so is a match, so is a pen. Like all of these things are enormously powerful when you think about them. And you know, like with a pen, for example, you have the power to write anything you want. You can write beautiful poetry. You can tell somebody some really nasty things about themselves and everything in between. So yeah, is it kind of scary? Yeah, it is kind of scary. Just like any tool is that could cause great harm. But those same tools can cause great healing. And that's how I choose to look at it. And I'm so glad that you have found access to your power. So thank you for the comment. Thank you for being here. All right. What we got here? Lynette Lindeboom is saying, I tried Marissa Peer's RTT, but it didn't work for me. So I'm not really sure what RTT is, but I know Marissa Peer is one of the most famous hypnotists in the world right now. I've watched a couple of videos that she's done, and I've listened to quite a few of her podcasts, and I think she's wonderful. I really do. I think she's wonderful. She talks a lot about how most of us on some level feel like we're not good enough. And I think that there's probably a lot of truth to that. And I'm assuming RTT is some kind of a program she has, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. But thanks for commenting. Let's see here. Scrolling down. Just looking for a question here. Here's JW Fat again. She is saying, I've been using your video for weight loss subliminal affirmation with the rain for a month. I'm happy to report that my eating by anxiety has gone down significantly. It's amazing. Fantastic. Congratulations to you. That's wonderful. Well, and it makes perfect sense to me, especially if you guys are, following along with what I'm talking about today, that everything is basically created inside of your mind. So two people can have the same experience, and one person can feel this tremendous amount of fear, stress and fear and anxiety. Let's call it like riding down a roller coaster. The person sitting right next to them can feel exhilarated, like I feel free, I feel excited, I feel happy. They are both sitting next to each other on the roller coaster, having pretty much the same physiological experience in pretty much the same space-time, right? They're both going up and down at the same time, but they're having these 180-degree different interpretations of what's happening. It's because it's all happening inside the mind. One person's mind, based on their programming, is telling them this is a horrible experience, you're gonna die, and the other person's having an experience based upon their programming, you're as free as a bird right now. Isn't this awesome? I can't wait to get back on this ride again. So I'm going to assume it starts making perfect sense to you guys that if you get into the subconscious mind and you start helping the subconscious mind change how it thinks, that your outer experience would then change. It really is, on some level, it's totally amazing. And on another level, it's like, well, yeah, of course. If we change the programming of the computer, the software that runs the computer's going to behave differently. Even if we hit the same keystrokes in the same sequence that we did the last time, it's going to have a different outcome because we changed the programming. So I am really glad for you, and thank you for sharing that with me and with the rest of us, because I'm going to say there's definitely somebody out there. They may be tuned into this broadcast right now. They may watch this thing 2 years from now, because these are all stored as static pieces of content after the live is over. And what you just wrote is someone's gonna see that and they're gonna be inspired to go do what you did, and they're gonna find the key, perhaps, to their own freedom. So thank you for posting that there, I appreciate it. All right, the reason number 2, let's jump to reason number 2. So, and did I make let's see, yes I did, here we go. There's a pretty little picture here of chain link fence and razor wire. The second reason is protection. A person can create a kind of fence or barrier between themselves and the outer world, because the subconscious mind has taken on the belief that existing in the world is not safe for that individual. And the role of the subconscious mind is to keep you safe. That's its job. Now, your conscious mind can walk into a situation. Your conscious mind can look at your body and say, I have nothing to fear, and that's great. But your subconscious mind could simultaneously be saying, there's a lot to fear in this situation. And that disconnect between conscious mind and subconscious mind is where so many of our problems come from, so many of our conflicts. So the reason why hypnosis can be so effective for people with things like weight loss is because we're actually ultimately working in the province of the subconscious mind, making changes in the subconscious mind to help the subconscious mind, in this case, of the case where the subconscious feels unsafe in an environment, wants to create a physical barrier between person and world, hence a lot of extra weight. If the subconscious mind can be made to understand that the person is actually very safe and they're safe to release the old weight, then the person can start dropping pounds. They can change their behavior in terms of the calories they take in, the kind of food they eat, why they eat, and so forth. Because of that perception of safety. This is a fairly common thing from what I've seen, especially sadly with women that have been abused, oftentimes perhaps even sexually abused, that the subconscious decides it's not safe to be seen as being attractive, to be kind of out there in the world. And so the extra weight, again, can be this protective mechanism, almost like erecting a fence or putting on a suit of armor, like a medieval knight. When that's the case, clearly what we want to be able to do, when I'm working one-on-one with people, is we want to be able to resolve, if they did have an old trauma, which you pretty much can be certain that they did, you want to be able to resolve that trauma. We use regression, hypnotic regression, so in their mind, they actually go back to the trauma. And we can understand exactly what was happening, and we can resolve it. Now, some people think, why would you want to go and dredge that back up? And I understand that point of view. We're not going back to it to dredge it up. We're going back to it to heal it. And the analogy I would make is, if you have, let's say, a splinter in your foot somewhere, like in your big toe, and you walk on it and it hurts like hell, you got a few options. One is you can walk with crutches, so that foot doesn't touch the ground. I know I'm being facetious, but I'm trying to just illustrate a point. The second thing you could do is you could take drugs. You could dull your sense of pain with drugs and alcohol. And we talked about that with reason number 1. Or you could sterilize a needle and you could dig that splinter out. And I promise you, you know this because everyone's had splinters. When you do that, when you sterilize a needle and you dig the splinter out, it hurts. It hurts a lot. But we all kind of know intuitively that splinter has to come out so that the underlying wound can heal, and then within a couple of days you're walking normally, no problem. I see old traumas as a splinter in the mind. And that, yes, it's kind of painful and a little scary to go back to it and to resolve it, to heal it where it lives. In a similar way that a sterilized needle is painful and probably a little scary to start digging around in your flesh because it hurts. But that is what, in my experience, brings true healing to those old traumas and those underlying wounds. And it's one of the ways in which the subconscious mind can release and let go of that old trauma. When it's resolved, when it's still active, when the splinter is still in the mind, it's going to be there until that thing gets resolved. And I think, sadly, that's why a lot of people go through their whole lives dealing with things like, obesity and different kinds of addiction and anxiety and perhaps even depression. Now, remember, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a psychologist. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm just speaking from my experience. So, all right, I hope that one makes sense. That's number 2. Let's see if we have any other comments or questions. And thanks, JW Fat, again. Yeah, Jose Cruz, you are a friend of mine. It's good to see you here, man. With hypnosis, you are in the zone. So athletes call the perfect state when they're playing their sport, they call it a flow state, or they call it the zone. And most of us have probably been in that, especially in an artistic way or in some other kind of creative way, and there's creative aspects to business, sure, or in an athletic way, where everything just seems to be unfolding perfectly, where you're fully present in the present moment. Being in love places you in the zone. And so Jose is correct that hypnosis is one of the ways of entering the zone. This is so cool. Everybody, a lot of people talking to each other and supporting each other, so I love to see that. Okay. Okay. Doreen, hi Doreen. For the last 3 months, I've been taking Peter to bed with me. He lost 21 pounds. Way to go, Doreen. Congratulations. That is fantastic. This is pretty funny too. Angel Shining says, I told the doctor I need to lose the baby weight. He says, how old is your baby? I said, old enough to go to the bar with me. That's pretty cool. That deserves some kind of a little... There we go. And Jose is saying, Peter, can you go a bit into making sure to understand the differences between healthy eating, weight habits, and the pressures on oneself society of what's considered healthy? Yes, I love to talk about this. And this is something that I often will discuss with my clients who I'm working with on a weight issue, particularly women. I think women are under an inordinate amount of stress, perhaps even more than men are when it comes to weight. When you look, if you go to an art museum and you look at paintings of women from, say, 100 years ago or 200 years ago, and then you look at those paintings coming forward and then the photographs coming forward, you see that the quote-unquote ideal size, shape, what's considered feminine, what's considered beautiful, what's considered sexy, keeps changing over and over again. You know, from full figure down to like very, 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 very skinny. I mean, even if you watch movies from the 1950s, and you look at the women who were considered, you know, the absolute most beautiful women of their time, they are way more full-figured than women are, than the ideal is considered today. And so, yes, to Jose's point, I think it's really important to keep in mind that our ideas of beauty, along with our ideas of just about everything else, have been created for us and have been planted hypnotically, primarily through television. And so I think it's important to recognize that you are an individual. It's not necessary, in my opinion, for you to look like any other individual, that you have your own perfect, healthy set point in terms of weight. And that perfect, healthy set point for you is probably different from when you were 14 to when you were 21 to when you were 40 to when you were 70, right? And this actually came up in a session working with one of my clients on weight. So we had her connected to her spirit guide. Her spirit guide took her back to a lifetime as a Native American woman and showed her these different snapshots from her lifetime as a Native American female. One was, she was like a young maiden, you know, 16 years old or something, and absolutely gorgeous and blah, 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 blah. And then another one, she was in her mid-20s and she was pregnant and she had little children. And then another one, she was in her 40s, and another one, she was, you know, a senior. She was like in her late 60s, or she was 80 or 70s or something like that. And the point the guide was making was, you have your own unique expression of beauty relative to other people. You have your own unique expression of beauty at different stages of your life. So if you've somehow been programmed, and most people have, that you're supposed to look like, you know, a 16-year-old model who has been made up, who has the lighting set just right, who has been then airbrushed, and you get the idea that that's what I'm supposed to look like, that's insane. If you're not 16 years old, even if you are 16 years old, you have a different body shape and size. And so I think so much of this is to recognize that you are a unique expression of the Creator. And that you know when you're healthy, you know, when your skin is glowing, when your hair is shiny, when your eyes are bright, when you feel like you have energy, when you feel like you're not a slave to eating certain kinds of food or drinking certain kinds of drinks. You know that. And I think for me, and for Jose, obviously, this is an important definition of health. So thank you so much, Jose, for making that point. I really appreciate it. All right, reason number 3. Reason number 3 is to, and I'll get rid of this guy here, is to fill an inner sense of emptiness. So it's almost like we have this idea of a vessel inside of us. I'm thinking of like a vase or a pot or an urn or something like that. And that there's this belief, or this more like a feeling in the mind, that thing isn't full, right? That it's partly full or it's empty. And I think what that inner vessel wants is, I think it wants what every human being wants, which is to feel loved, to feel love, to feel worthy, kind of to Marissa Peer's point, to feel like good enough, right? So feeling loved, if you can feel love, you must be good enough on some level, right? So I like to call it love. If there's a feeling like there's a dearth of that sensation inside of you, a dearth of those feelings of love, that can be a subconscious reason for distraction. That can be a subconscious reason for a kind of emotional pain. That can be a subconscious reason for wanting to fill up that vessel. And for a short period of time, and just like a short period of time, you can make pain either go away or become numb or dull. For a short period of time, I think, when a person either takes drugs or they drink alcohol, or they eat a lot of food because they're using food like a drug, they can have the sensation of filling that vessel up. And for a short period of time, they can feel kind of satisfied, like, oh, okay, I can rest now. And then, again, within a short period of time, that feeling wears off, and now they go back to it again. They go back to it again. That's all of these elements are things that I program into my virtual hypnosis sessions that I have on my YouTube channel. And if I'll make a little pitch for myself. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. It's Blue Sky Hypnosis on YouTube, and so I'll have things programmed in there, suggestions, messages, and ideas about now you're full, you're filled with love, or you drink clean water and it fills you up. Or you eat clean, healthy food, and now you feel full after eating only a third or 2/3 of what you used to need to have that feeling. So this is another, I would say, the third of the 5 plus 1 of the reasons why someone could have a hard time losing weight. I mean, if they still have those feelings of emptiness inside, but they're eating the right food and they got a membership to the gym, and they're starting to lose weight, and then it all comes back on. Why did it come back on? Because no one ever helped them deal with these feelings of emptiness on the inside. All right, let's see what else we have here. It looks like Marie Hogan's here. Hello, Marie. Here, We Are One. Hello, We Are One. Peter, I eat constantly when I'm stressed or bored. How can I overcome using food as an escape? Fantastic. So this question obviously goes right to what I was saying before about working at that corporate job, about wanting some kind of a break from this. Part of it was boredom, part of it was feeling trapped. Walking across the street, going to the gas station, getting the Snickers, eating the Snickers, oh, that feels really good, and then going back to my desk and feeling like at least I got these 15 minutes of reprieve. So how can you, and I want to pop that one up there again, how can I overcome using food as an escape? All right, so the food is supplying a purpose right now. So we have to take the reason why the food is present, and we have to resolve the reason in another way. So stated in economic terms, we would be looking at the demand side of the curve rather than the supply side of the curve, right? What is causing the demand? What is causing you to be bored? What is causing you to be stressed? And what would we need to do to change that? So clearly, what the long-term solution, and this is one of the reasons I went from calling myself simply a hypnotist to being a life coach and a hypnotist, is how could we help you get into an aspect of life, a way of being or doing things where you weren't bored anymore? That sounds like a systemic problem. It certainly was for me when I was at that corporate job, and I couldn't leave it right away, because I had a wife and 3 children. But eventually I was able to do that. So the long-term solution, I think, is to figure out what lights you up in life. And how can you do that thing instead of doing the things that you're doing now, whether it's doing nothing or doing something you really don't want to be doing. The other thing is the stress. Where's the stress coming from? So you may want to go back if you haven't seen it already and watch a live that I've done on stress where I talk about what stress actually is. So most people don't know that your autonomic nervous system has two modes. It's got fight or flight, which is what we call stress. The only other option is rest and digest. That's it. You're either in one or you're in the other. Something as simple as being dehydrated stresses your body. Not sleeping enough stresses your body. Drinking coffee, the caffeine is a poison, and the caffeine causes your body to move into a stress response. That's why people feel like they have all this energy and they want to get things done because they have moved into a stress response. So it's important to look at every aspect of your life and say, what is causing me stress? Not just the stuff that I associate with stress, which most people would be, I'm arguing with my significant other, I'm having problems with my boss, I'm worried I'm going to lose my job, maybe there's not enough money to pay the bills and so forth. But to look at the other areas that are causing you stress, because it's all working together. Then, no matter what your circumstance in life is right now, you can change that autonomic nervous system from the sympathetic mode, the fight or flight stress response, into the parasympathetic mode, the rest and digest response. Entering hypnosis, by definition, moves someone from one to the other. Now, a lot of my clients will explain things like, all through the day I'm eating healthy, everything's going good, go to work, come back, everything's good, cook a nice healthy meal, sit down to watch TV, and in the time between, let's say, 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock, that's when they're like going for the ice cream, they're going for the chips, they're going for, the cookies and the brownies and the cake and so forth. And so, for those people, one of the suggestions I make, it's not the only one, is listen to this, and I've got a whole bunch of tracks, but one of them is called dual programming, D-U-A-L, dual programming for weight loss. You put on headphones, and you get a different set of suggestions at the 9-minute mark that go into your right ear, then go into your left ear. So you're getting kind of bombarded with weight loss suggestions. And I say, make a deal with yourself. When you feel the urges happening, or right before the time when this normally happens, like say if it starts at 7:30, then listen to this thing at 7. With the proviso, make a deal with yourself. I'll listen to this, I feel these urges right now, but I'll listen to this thing, and if after I listen to it, 20 minutes, I feel like I still want to eat, then I'll go and eat those things. And what happens, what they report to me is, if they do that, if they listen to the track, they don't want to do that. So I guess what I'm saying is, immediately listen to one of these tracks. I've got another one that's awesome, I think, called Mind Massage. Listen to the Mind Massage track daily to move your autonomic nervous system from the fight or flight response to the rest and digest response. It's like going on vacation. So one of the things I was thinking about before the call today was cell phone, right? What's the one thing you have to do with this thing every day? The one thing you have to do with this every day. Yes, exactly. Yes. The answer is you have to charge it. If you don't charge your cell phone every day, it doesn't matter how much you paid for it, it doesn't matter how many gigabytes of memory it has, it doesn't matter all the fancy things it can do, if you don't charge it, it has exactly zero value. How are you charging yourself every day? How are you plugging yourself into your own source of power? And I say the way that we do this, there are a number of ways, right? Prayer is one. Self-hypnosis is another. Meditation is another. Tai Chi is another. Qigong. With some people walking through nature. There are different ways that you can move your autonomic nervous system from the stress response to the rest and digest response. There are different ways you can program your subconscious mind. And I say you need to do it every day in the same way that every day you manage to find a way to plug this thing in. right? Because if you don't, if you start your day and your phone is at 13% battery power and you have things you need to do with it, it's going to crap out on you. It's going to be worthless. And it's the same with your mind. It's the same with your body. It needs to be recharged. It needs to be rejuvenated. And sadly, I think part of the programming we've received in our culture is we come last. You know, the kids come first, the pets, the house, the bills. Well, the job probably comes first. You know, if the kids don't come first, the job probably comes first. So all of these things that come first, and then we come last somewhere down the road. And then we wonder why, you know, we need coffee, a poison, to wake up in the morning, to have energy to go through the day. Why we need, you know, probably different kinds of pharmaceuticals to cope with these symptoms that are popping up all over the place, that as we get older, we get more and more of them. Why we have all this weight on our body. You know, why we need more pills or alcohol to go to sleep at night, and that we're on this kind of downward trajectory. I mean, this is lunacy. So you know, whatever's going on for you right now, I would say you can begin to deal with the stress by intervening, by jumping in there so that you can feel the opposite of stress. What would that be like for you to feel 45 minutes of bliss every single day? How would that change your life? I'm going to say it would change your life in dramatic ways. Now, in addition to the audible tracks that I mentioned you can listen to during the day, like the dual track one, that's the different suggestions, 20 minutes, or the mind massage, 45 minutes, you can also listen to, I just released one yesterday. It was in the email I sent out today about this broadcast. I am safe to lose weight. It's an 8-hour subliminal. You just press play, you go to sleep, and subliminal affirmations are flowing into your mind while you're sleeping. J.W. Fat was talking about how effective this was for her. So I hope that this makes sense to you. I hope these different suggestions make sense in terms of an answer to your question. And thank you for posing it, and good luck to you. And let me know if you have any other questions. All right. Let's see how. Marie Hogan, MH. MH is saying, hello MH, Michelle here. I was always on top of my weight and eating. I had a health scare and I was too scared to work out. My personal life changed and I don't look at myself in the mirror now or take accountability. Okay, so excuse me, Michelle, I mentioned before that the way I got into this work was through a simultaneous Lyme disease and leukemia diagnosis in 2003. And I can say for sure, I don't know exactly what your health scare is, but that was a health scare for me. And I would say that a health scare is by definition a trauma. You know, it is the subconscious mind for sure registers it as a potential existential life threat, and can set up this protective barrier or these different mechanisms, like you were saying, where you don't want to work out anymore, and other things have changed. So I would suggest that maybe some of the suggestions I was just making a little while ago, the mind massage, for example, that listening to that, which it's only concerned with deep relaxation, just moving you from that sympathetic nervous response to the parasympathetic nervous response could really help a lot. And it may be that after, you know, a week of this or after a month of this, if you really commit to it, and it does take discipline. I mean, it's 45 minutes, the mind massage one. And, you know, you put on headphones and you lie down or sit down. You could fall asleep while you're listening to it, doesn't matter. That I would love it if you would report back to me and say, hey, Peter, I listened to this thing for a month and this is how I'm feeling right now. If for some reason you did that, and you got to that place and it wasn't really, you still were struggling, then we would have to do more. But essentially, it's really about the whole safety thing. And it's weird that I just released this track yesterday, I Am Safe to Lose Weight. It's an 8-hour subliminal you listen to overnight. You may want to check that one out too. So, you know, listen to the mind massage during the day so that you move into that parasympathetic response, and then listen to the overnight one. You're sleeping anyway. It's not like you're having to carve out time for it. And see if these things begin to help you. And if they don't, then we would probably, if it were me helping you, we're working with you, I would want to help you work through in a hypnotic regression fashion, to go back to that trauma when you first were diagnosed, and almost like rescue that younger version of you, even if this was 6 months ago. And it could be 6 months ago, it could be 16 years ago, it doesn't really matter. But we would want to kind of resolve that trauma, because it seems like that's where, according to what you're saying, all of this was created. In other words, the root or underlying cause. And it sounds like your subconscious mind is trying to protect you because it thinks it's under a lot of threat. And the irony there is, if you are in that stress state all the time, your body actually diminishes all of your major systems. So reproductive system, digestive system, endocrine system, immune system all get significantly reduced so that you can have more energy in your muscles so you can run or fight. But with something like what you're talking about, we don't want those systems reduced, because those are really what brings health back to you. So, thank you for making the comment, and I hope some of the things that I said will be helpful to you. All right, reason number 4 that a person could have a hard time losing weight is that they are essentially programmed, and I have a little picture for this one. They are essentially programmed to have excessive weight. When I was studying hypnotherapy, there was a term that was used called the family mind, meaning that the family structure in which you grow up in has its own set of rules, its own set of values, its own set of beliefs. And one of those could be, there are people starving on the other side of the planet, and so you have to clean your plate. It could be that we don't spend, money doesn't grow on trees, and so we don't want to spend a lot of money on food, and so we buy kind of cheap food. But the problem with the cheap food is that can cause real problems for you too. That it's not as nutritious. Maybe it has more toxins in it and so forth, and it can cause real problems. It could also be that you learn as a little child by looking up at all of the men in your family or all of the women in your family that everyone's heavy. And so you get this idea in your mind, well, that's what it means to be an adult. It means to be heavy. And you don't even realize this because it's percolating in your subconscious mind. You're like, why can't I lose all this weight? Well, your programming is telling you that to be accepted in that family system, for example, you have to be heavy. And the reason I put up this picture of a herd of sheep is because as human beings, we are herd animals. I've mentioned this before. And that safety to a herd animal is being with the rest of the herd. It's not being out on your own, it's being with the herd. And so standing up or standing out or standing away from the herd in any way can be perceived by the subconscious mind to be threatening to the long-term viability of the individual. This is one of the reasons why it can be difficult for individuals to excel athletically, to excel artistically, to excel financially, or to have a thin, healthy body. Because if you do, it's very likely in the climate in which we live right now that you ain't fitting in with your family or with the people with whom you work, or maybe even your friends. And there's a subconscious part of your mind that might be saying, it's not safe if I don't fit in. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be lonely. So that has to be kind of looked at and addressed as well. Excuse me. The other aspect where this family mind just briefly came up when I was studying hypnotherapy was in things like heart disease. And again, I'm not a doctor, okay? But if a person has a belief in their mind that all the men in their family die of heart attacks in their 50s, then they are being programmed much in the same way that a person could be programmed by a placebo, which means I will please, or a nocebo, which is a negative programming outcome. So this sort of family mind, this programming, this wanting to fit in with the herd are all other important aspects to look at. I mean, statistically, people who have a friend group where the friend group are heavy or obese people, statistically, that person is much more likely to also be heavy or obese. And I think this has to do with what we're talking about now, wanting to fit in. Not wanting to feel like we're out alone on an island. You know, human beings are herd animals. We want to fit in. So this is another aspect, I'm calling it number 4, that needs to be addressed. Okay, let's go right into 5, and then I'll look at some more questions here. The 5th one is stress. So this has been mentioned a couple of times today. Stress. The best way for me to think about this is that autonomic nervous system. You've got 2 modes. You're either in sympathetic, that is your stress response, or you're in parasympathetic. That is the opposite of a stress response. That is rest and digest. If you're not in one, you're in the other. All kinds of things can move you into a stress response. Like I said before, it's not just having trouble paying your bills or having an argument at work or watching the news. It's also drinking caffeine. It's also drinking alcohol. These are poisons. They stress your body. Your body says, where's all this poison coming from? This isn't good. This person needs to escape and engage the stress response. Not enough water. All of these things, not enough sleep, all of these things can cause a stress response. Now, when the stress response is initiated, the body does a lot of things. I mentioned before how it halves the energy going to the major systems: endocrine system, immune system, reproductive system, digestive system. It also releases adrenaline into the bloodstream. That's why you feel like after you drink coffee, you've got energy. You've got adrenaline. It's the same thing as if a lion was charging at you. You get the same response because the caffeine is a poison. But the body's also releasing the hormone cortisol into the bloodstream. And the role of cortisol is very interesting. Cortisol tells the body, hold on to all available fat. How are you gonna lose weight if you're in a stress response all the time? It's causing you to emotionally eat comfort food. We have these words, hello. And it's causing your body to release cortisol into your bloodstream, which is telling your body, hold on to all available fat. Don't let it go. This is absolutely crucial. This is my proverbial 3rd leg of a 3-legged stool. And that if all you're looking at, which is historically probably likely, if all you're looking at is diet and exercise, that stool is going to keep tipping over on you over and over again. So stress in all of its forms, it could be a past trauma. It could be that you're not taking care of your body. It could be that you're feeding yourself poison. It could be that you're not drinking enough water. You know, it could be that you're bored at work. That's going to cause a form of stress. You know, it could be that you're eating crap food. I mean, all of these things I think have to be addressed. You can't just look at one thing. You got to look at all of it. And stress is kind of like the bullseye on the target. You know, look at that stress. Look at it from that holistic perspective of, is what I'm doing now going to tend to move me into a sympathetic stress response, or is it going to tend to move me into a parasympathetic rest and digest response? That's where we want you most of the time. We don't want you releasing that cortisol into your bloodstream because that's going to compound your problem. You know, even that example of getting out of the shower and looking at your body and being disgusted with yourself and saying nasty things either out loud or in your mind is going to move you into a stress response, and it's actually going to make the problem worse. Drinking the cup of coffee, even if it doesn't have a lot of calories in it, is initiating a stress response, which means your body's going to dump adrenaline and cortisol into the bloodstream. Cortisol is going to tell the body, hold on to all available fat. You might be exercising the same amount that you exercised 10 years ago, and now you're starting to gain weight. Why? Well, according to Yale University that did a study on this, it's largely because of stress and the role of cortisol. So, you know, I can't stress enough to you about, you know, these reasons why you can't lose weight: stress and cortisol. Massive, massive, massive reason. All right, let me see what we have here in terms of questions and comments. Let's see. That's so sweet, Doreen. Doreen says, Marissa Peers is good, but she's not Peter. That is so sweet of you. Thank you. Oh, this is interesting. Shankaroon Kier. Maybe it's Kier or Choir. What do you suggest we do to brainwash ourselves to good health? That's a really interesting way of saying it, Shankarun. And the way I describe this is flooding. So it's kind of like a water or a liquid metaphor. So you're saying brain wash, and I talk about flooding your subconscious mind with the thoughts, images, feelings, suggestions, and ideas that you want to become a reality in your life. It would be like if you said to me, I want a garden and I want to grow tomatoes. How should I do that? Well, I know just this much about gardening, but I know that you'd want to put tomato seeds in your garden. And I know that you would not want to have obstacles there. Like I would know for sure you wouldn't want to build your your garden on an asphalt driveway. I know you wouldn't want to even build it on a lawn. You'd want to dig up the grass, so you had fertile soil. Maybe you put boxes in so that soil is really rich and fertile, right? And the metaphor here is the obstacles like the asphalt or like the grass would be old traumas. And then you'd want to take tomato seeds and put a whole bunch of tomato seeds in that fertile soil. And then what would you want to do? You'd want to tend to the garden. You'd want to weed it and make sure that every couple of days you went out there and plucked the weeds so they weren't crowding out the tomato plants. And you'd want to make sure you watered it. So in terms of your life and the tools you have access to, I would say you'd want to flood your mind with the thoughts, ideas, suggestions, images, and feelings that you want to be a physical reality in your life, like a thin, healthy body. So you'd want to listen to some of these tracks that I'm talking about and do it consistently, right? And then when your body gets to the place where you want it to be, and actually there's another step, you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep, you're drinking enough water, you're getting some exercise, you're getting outside in the sunlight, that you're taking time for yourself to just play or relax, be with friends. And that at the end, let's say at the end of 30 days or the end of 60 days or 90 days, whatever it is, there's some period where you feel like, wow, I'm starting to really get control over this. This is now starting to move in the right direction. You wouldn't stop what you're doing at that point any more than you would stop weeding and watering your plants in your little tomato garden. You'd keep that going. But once you've gotten it to that point, maybe you don't have to listen to an audible during the day and a subliminal at night. Maybe at this point you can start to back it off. You can listen to a subliminal every other night. You can listen to an audible, every other day or something like that, and find the right balance for you so that you can keep that kind of healthy path going. Now, if something happens in your life, like God forbid there's some kind of a crisis or a trauma in your life, then you might want to add in more on the other side to keep yourself more or less in that parasympathetic response. So hopefully that makes sense to you, and thank you for asking the question. Okay, so here's another interesting question here. Nani, was it 10,001? How can I get a better outlook for myself? I listened to your eating less video. I suffer from depression and anxiety. All right, so as I mentioned a few times in this broadcast, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a licensed social worker, I'm not a doctor. So what I'm gonna say, please, take this for whatever you will. And if you haven't already, you'd wanna seek professional help for the depression and anxiety. I would say two things basically. One thing is maybe a little bit harder to do on your own, and that is, what is the origin of the depression and anxiety? In other words, where did this start for the first time? Now, you may know what that is. You may know, hey, there was this trauma when I was 19 years old, and ever since then I've felt all this depression and anxiety. You may not know what it is. If you don't know what it is, there's a video on my YouTube channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis, subscribe if you haven't, called How to Use a Pendulum, Pendulum, Pendulum. It's an ideomotor tool where once you learn how to use it, you can ask questions of your subconscious mind. And you can ask questions and say, did the depression I'm feeling originate earlier in my present life? Did it originate in a past life? Did it originate before the age of 15 years old? And you can kind of tie down a window to when that started. So at least you know what is causing that. How to resolve that on your own, maybe a little bit tougher. It might involve forgiveness. Maybe just awareness would help you. If I were working with you, it would be, the same kind of thing, regression back to cause. Figure out what's going on and figure out how to heal it where it lives, which is in the past. Second thing you'd want to be able to do is keep doing what you said already. So you said you're listening to something already. With something like anxiety, what I would suggest is back to that mind massage video I mentioned before. It's a 45-minute video. It's audible. You use headphones or earbuds with it because it has binaural tones embedded in it. This helps you to go to a deeper level of relaxation if you use the headphones or earbuds, but only on the ones that say binaural. That one will help you move, as I said before, from that sympathetic response, which is where you are with anxiety, into the parasympathetic response. So chances are that you can go through your whole day, you can go through a whole week, you can go through a whole year or more without feeling totally relaxed, totally at peace, totally at ease, feeling like in a state of bliss. The more you can be in that state, this, I would submit, would also help you as well. So, please don't ignore the professional help that's out there if that's available to you, but maybe some of the suggestions I made to you will assist you. I think they will. So thank you for asking the question and good luck to you. Okay, I want to jump into the +1. So I talked about the 5 reasons you can't lose weight, plus I said there's one esoteric reason. So what I have come across in my 14 years of practice is a person can have a subconscious identification with a deceased loved one. Now, if that deceased loved one was heavy, and the two people, let's say client and grandmother is now deceased, grandmother was significantly overweight, and the two of them, grandchild and grandmother, bonded over baking. And grandma was heavy. And client, grandchild, has these very powerful memories of being in the kitchen with grandma and baking together and feeling her overwhelming love. If this is the case, what we do is we rewire that connection between grandchild and grandmother. So in a hypnotic state, I have the client see grandma standing right in front of her and a cord, like an extension cord or a wire, connecting the two of them through their love of baking. And they talk to each other, and client asks grandma if they can establish a new connection between them based upon a love of, say, dogs. They create a new connection, new wire, a new cord between them that's shiny, robust, so forth, maybe connected by the heart, and she can feel it, client can feel that with her grandma. Once that's established, I have client ask grandma if they can disconnect the old cord, which connected them based upon baking and excess weight. So it's kind of what I mentioned before, which is if someone's overeating, if they've got a significant weight problem, the food is doing something for them other than sustaining their life. If you just pull away the food, you've created a vacuum. Something is going to fly into that vacuum because that's the nature of physics. It's the nature of the universe. And it's likely going to be food that flies back into that vacuum. If it doesn't, something else is going to come into it, and it's probably going to be something kind of nasty. I mean, when people stop smoking, what do? They usually start overeating because they've created a vacuum. They haven't figured out what the cigarettes were doing for them on an emotional and psychological level. You pull the cigarettes away, now you got a vacuum. Either the cigarettes are going to go back into the vacuum, or usually food fills in the vacuum and now they start gaining lots of weight. So you've got to figure out what is the excess food doing. And in this case, it could be this powerful emotional subconscious connection with a deceased relative. You've got to solve that first. You can't just take away the feelings of love and connection they have with their grandma. It's not going to work. You've got to rewire that. So we rewire that, and that usually allows us to bypass what previously was an obstacle. Now, the other thing that could be in terms of an esoteric reason is it could be a past life issue. So I have had cases where people died of starvation in a past lifetime. And in this lifetime, the subconscious mind, which again is dedicated to making sure that the client is safe and protected, not going to allow that to happen again, causes them to be significantly overweight so they don't starve to death. And clearly, if that's the case, then we want to clear that past lifetime. It's essentially like a trauma earlier in your present life. This is just a trauma in a past life, and so we'd want to clear that trauma in a past life to allow that person to bypass it. All right, I'm gonna look in and look for a couple more questions, because I love to engage with you guys and to answer questions to the extent that I can. But before I do that, I just want to talk about next Friday, live at 5, we are going to be talking about, where is this? Forgiveness. I find this to be probably the most important topic that I deal with in my practice. I believe that when a person is in a state of non-forgiveness with another person, it's like they're handcuffed to that other person. Connected, attached, handcuffed to the other person through pain. And the proof of this is if you think of someone in your past with whom you are in a state of non-forgiveness, and when you think of this person, you get angry, or you get fearful, or you become sad. To me, it's like you are connected to them, you're handcuffed to them through pain. And the way you free yourself from this, at least the way I help people do this, is through forgiveness. Not just intellectual forgiveness, oh, I forgave him a long time ago. No, it's like emotional forgiveness. And you can use a pendulum to determine and say, oh, I forgave them a long time ago. Okay, ask your pendulum. You know, calibrate the pendulum the way I show you to in the video on my YouTube channel, and ask the pendulum, did I fully and completely forgive, you know, Aunt Betty Sue? And if you get a yes, great, move on with your life. If you get a no, it doesn't matter if you think you forgave her, because you consciously forgave her, you didn't subconsciously or emotionally forgive her. So we're going to be talking about why it's important to forgive, and how to do it, and the kinds of benefits that come along with forgiveness, and maybe even some examples of this we'll be chit-chatting about next week. And if you have anything on this topic, anything on forgiveness that you would like in particular to see included, please feel free to reach out, peter@blueskyhypnosis.com, or comment on this video even once it's not live anymore, because I still see all the comments that come in. Make a comment and make a suggestion for what you'd like to see included with this topic. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Okay. Shankaroon says, I feel unsafe. And Shankaroon then says, I need to heal. So yeah, I mean, feeling unsafe, and I guess to clarify this one, you know, you could be in a situation right now where you literally are not safe. And if that's the case, you'd obviously want to figure out how to change that situation so that you can achieve physical safety. It's very common for people to have physical safety, to have had physical safety for decades, but their subconscious mind still feels unsafe. That's what I'm referring to. That's the kind where if you have physical safety, but this is still going on because your subconscious mind says, oh, no, you're not safe. We want to update the subconscious mind, help the subconscious mind feel like, yes, you are indeed safe. You're safe to eat healthy food. You're safe to sleep deeply at night. You're safe to be in a loving relationship. You're safe to eat you know, food in modest, moderate portions, and you're safe to lose weight. Okay. Okay, so Rain Virgo is saying, how can I feel safe to lose weight again? I was sexually abused from early childhood into my teen years. When I did lose weight, I ended up in a really bad relationship. I want to live and love again. Okay, so obviously this is a pretty significant issue that you've got going on here. I have worked with clients who have been in this circumstance before, sadly, and what's striking me is how, so you had the sexual abuse when you were young, which I'm really sorry about. It's just awful. It's awful that anybody has to deal with this. And then you got to a point where you were able to lose weight and then you got into bad relationships. Okay, so your subconscious mind is probably in this place of like, keep that at arm's length. We don't want that to happen again. And the weight is what I said before in number 2. It's protective. You know, it's like that barrier. So we would want to figure out what was the dynamic that was created whereby once you lost weight, you got into bad and unhealthy relationships, right? Because that's not axiomatic. It's not axiomatic for everyone that when they lose weight, they get into a destructive, bad, abusive relationship. There was something else inside of you that was unconsciously, because there's a lot of fish in the sea, unconsciously choosing people, men, women, whatever, that were leading you back down that nasty path. Why was that the case? That's what I would want to understand. There can be a variety of reasons for that. I don't know you, so I have no idea what it is for you. All I can say is what I have found with other people, some examples of what I've found with other people. So if a person takes on the belief that they are not worthy of love, that they're not worthy of a healthy, loving relationship. Now, remember, consciously you can say, yeah, of course I'm worthy of that, definitely. It doesn't matter if the subconscious mind took on that belief of being unworthy, that deeper sense of unworthiness, that the unconscious factors are what cause all of us to make the choices that we make. So nobody is making quote unquote stupid choices. It's not a question of conscious intellect. It's the deeper emotional parts of us that choose everything. The car that you buy, you know, the clothes that you buy at the store, the job you take, the job you even interview for, all of these are driven by deeper subconscious belief systems. So I would want to know, is there a deeper kind of, is there a deeper limiting belief that caused the unhealthy relationships when you lost weight? Because if that's the case, and I don't know if it is, but if that's the case, that's the deeper belief system that would need to be healed before the subconscious mind would then say, okay, now that you fixed that, now that we understand and realize we're worthy of love, now we're safe to lose the weight. And now that we've lost the weight, perhaps now we get into this healthy relationship. So really, a complicated topic, but really important. And thank you for, having the courage to share that with us and to listen to what I had to say. And I hope that something I said has helped in some way. All right, I will take, let's take one more and then we'll call it a day. Get on with our respective weekends. All right, so Doreen is saying, I get that empty, not good enough belief. Used alcohol, sex, food, whatever to fill me up. So yeah, I mean it makes perfect sense actually. If you're not charging your phone by plugging yourself into your source of power, it's going to become depleted. And that pain of feeling not good enough, that pain of feeling depleted is going to make those other things look attractive because they provide short-term feelings of being good enough, short-term illusions and feelings of being filled up, and a distraction from the underlying pain. And again, I really think that the solution to these things is to fill yourself up with those feelings of love and those feelings of worthiness. And some of the tracks that I have on my channel, help to do that. And I think when we do this in a disciplined fashion, then those other things, they start to not mean that much to us anymore. And I have people saying that to me all the time, saying, I used to have this problem. I couldn't walk by a tray of food. I couldn't get through a night without drinking 3 glasses of wine. And after a lot of this work has been done, I've had so many people say to me, I was able to walk past the tray of food and it really didn't matter. I took 2 bites and I was like, no thanks, and I pushed it away. Or I took a drink of the wine and I thought, this tastes like crap. I don't want this. I don't need this. So it can be done. It can definitely be done. All right. Let's see. Mond Falcon says, thank you so much for your help. I work in a male domain. I needed my fat to be in the beauty scheme was dangerous. Nobody took me serious and I had to prove myself that I am intelligent. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what you meant by that, but anytime you feel like you have to prove yourself, you know, then we're by definition seeking approval outside of ourselves. And I actually think that we have the ability to either through your connection with your creator or God or the universe or your higher self or a deceased relative or in some of these other ways, I think we have that ability to be approved of by you know, like a creator energy, or to be able to approve of ourselves, to give ourselves the permission to feel accepted and to feel loved by us for exactly who we are. And I feel like that's where things really begin to change, is that when we stop looking for what we want outside of us and we start accepting and giving it to us on the inside, I feel like that's where things really begin to change. So thank you for sharing that with us, Mond, and I hope, you know, I wish you Godspeed on your path. All right, I keep saying this, but let's do one more. Valerie Nelson. Hello, Valerie. My entire family has weight issues. My brother died of obesity. Wow, I'm sorry. God, that must have been rough. That sucks. My parents were Southern cookers. Only me and my other brother are healthy, but we can't eat like the others. Yeah, so, you know, that family system is enormously powerful in so many ways. And I would suggest that for most people, you know, everyone has issues with their family probably. And yet our families, you know, I heard a person say, if your parents you know, get you to the age of 14 and you're still alive, they've done their job, which I thought was kind of funny and kind of true on some levels. But you know, our parents, I think, teach us lots of really great things. They help us to function in the world, but they're also fallible people. And a lot of the work that I do one-on-one with my clients is working on their significant relationships in their lives. And there are few relationships in our lives that are as important as our relationship with our parents. And as I said before, if a person has a subconscious identification with a parent who's heavy, that can be a real barrier to them. You know, the traditions and the celebrations and all those things, those can tie in as well. And it sounds like, you know, you and your other brother figured out how to extricate yourselves in terms of your eating habits from what your parents brought to you. And it sounds like it worked for you. And if that's the case, congratulations. I'm glad you were able to do that. So thank you to everyone who attended today, the regulars, the people who are new, the people who are just dipping in. Next week, we're going to be talking about forgiveness. I hope you'll consider joining for that. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. If you have any ideas, thoughts, or suggestions about other topics, or if you want to expand on some things you'd like to see in the forgiveness piece, please do reach out. Put comments in the comments section of this video when it goes from live in a few minutes to being static. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, Blue Sky Hypnosis on YouTube, please consider doing that as well. And we will see you next Friday. Have a great weekend. Bye.